Are you totally different when it comes to sex and copulation? Have you judged yourself out of receiving pleasure? Have you judged yourself into receiving pleasure in certain ways and excluded other ways? Would you like to know more about what else is possible with bodies? Would you like to create confidence in the bedroom and beyond? How has your sex life or lack of it affected other areas of your life? Everyone has the potency to be a sexual superhero. Get ready to listen, sense, and play with the sexualness that is you. Now, here's the host of The Pleasure Zone, pleasure diva and body whisperer, Milica Jelenic.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Pleasure Zone. I'm your host, Milica Jelenic, and tonight we are talking boobies. This is going to be fun. I have a guest on tonight. You could just hear her laughing there, and my guest is Julie Perkins. So for some of you who have been listening to Inspire Choices Network, you might have noticed Julie Perkins in our archives. She had a show with her daughter about a year ago, I guess. I don't even remember time anymore. But they have some shows in the archives. You can listen to some of her shows, too, in there. And Julie is actually coming on to talk about boobies with us because she's a bit of a boobie expert. And she's actually had many things that she's done in her life with healing energy work. And she's also, and I like this word that she uses, she calls herself a breast cancer sur-thriver and shamanic practitioner. I like that word sur-thriver. It's not just survivor. It's not just thriver. It's a little bit of both. It's great. And I love that we're having this conversation because even though I've, had this show, it's actually next week is my 3rd anniversary for the show. And I don't think I've actually dedicated an entire show to boobies in 3 years. So how cool is that we're actually talking boobies? And boobies are so life-giving and essential. I was just mentioning before we were getting on the show, that we were at a family event on the weekend, and one of my cousins, her daughter was getting christened, and right before they were about to christen her, my cousin just whipped out the boob and started nursing, much to the mortification of her mother, who threw a blanket over her, and the baby took the blanket off. And so if you can only imagine, this is a Serbian Orthodox church. They're kind of strict. We were surprised. My husband was surprised, actually. He's been into the church a few times, and he was like, wow, there's chairs this time. I'm like, yes, I think they realize that there's a lot of old people coming, so they put some chairs out. Otherwise, we normally stand for the entire thing, and it can be hours and hours and hours. So, yes, you have to, cover your shoulders, never mind whipping your boob out. So I was very proud to be like, yeah, man, that's my cousin. She whipped her boob out in church. That's wicked. I'm so proud.
Things are changing.
Things are changing, and welcome to the Hour of Power with Boobie Talk tonight with Julie Perkins. So welcome, Julie. And we're going to talk all things boobies tonight because you actually were a co-author in a book about that. You want to tell us a little bit about the book?
Yes, the book, brand new out and a #1 bestseller, breast seller, I almost said.
I like it. It's
bestseller
perfect.
already. It's called Breast Easy, edited by Erica Glessing, and there are 14 of us co-authors writing about all kinds of things with our breasts. Size, shape, preferences, experiences. It's just one of those amazing kind of heartwarming books. I've been making my way through it, reading all the other chapters, and the energy of it is just so inviting for people to have and embrace a different point of view about boobies, no matter what they call them.
Boobies. Those mammary glands of life. The mammary gland just sounds like so formal, so boobies is way more fun. And all the show is going to be about boobies. And one of the things that actually I had crazy conversations, of course, leading up to this show about boobies yesterday. I was actually sporting a shirt that was inappropriate. Can you imagine me? And I wore a very inappropriate shirt to church, and I was choosing to just go and create ease for my father's brain not to explode, so I like covered up my cleavage. But it was one of those like plunging shirts, and I have very small boobies. Like I have, they're small. To my daughter, she thinks they're hunk and big. I'm like, well, sweetie, compared to what you have, they are big, but they're not big in reality. Let me show you some friends. Like let's look at Auntie Christine. That's Christine McIver, the CEO of this station. I'm like, let's look at her boobies. You see, they're bigger than Mummy's. Yeah, that's big. This, not big. But it's interesting from a child's perspective too, and how boobies can be inappropriate or appropriate, and like what all that sort of stuff too, and how much judgment we put on them. They're like. Yeah. There's so much energy. Just even saying boobie, people are like, they almost look around for it and they're like, is it the booby bird? No, we're talking about the real ones. Oh, like people get a little nervous, even like excited, nervous. It's hard to say. So what is it about boobies that you are now having them be your BFF?
Well, it hasn't always been ease, and it hasn't always been that kind of best friend relationship. And exactly what you were talking about with your daughter, it's that kind of very early on comparison reality that we get into. It's like, oh, mine, size or shape or functionality or whatever. Oh, theirs. Mine against theirs. Mine with theirs. My comfort with them, my discomfort with them, and actually how much of that is actually not even ours. So as energetic beings, we kind of step into this comparison universe, and not only are we comparing, but we're picking up all of the energies of what everybody else is perceiving and thinking, and whether it's right or wrong, that judgment, exactly what you're talking about. So, my journey with breath hasn't always been such ease, and now that I have them as my best friends, there's so much more, so much less judgment and more ease in my whole body. The thing about breasts for women is that they are that focal point. How many movies have you seen where the guy's talking to the girl and she says something like, I'm up here, because he's looking pointed down into her chest. That's where all the focus is for him going there, And that happens even with women, right? It happens even when we're just out at the grocery store. It seems to be that place that draws the attention and all the judgment and all the points of views. And so what can you do to become best friends, breast friends? That's what my chapter in the book was about. And so I started with actually acknowledging them.
That helps, right? Oh, you've got some.
Yeah. It's like, wow, I got some. Because, what happens is sometimes when we get too much focus there, it's like, I just don't even want to just sort of like, let's see how I can hide them and cover them, not acknowledge them. And so
it's funny how we can have that for both big ones and small ones. Like, you can have a lot of attention for having really big boobs, but you can also get a lot of attention even like growing up as teen, like in a teen setting. Like I remember being like me and this other girl were the girls who had the smallest boobs in grade 8. And it was like mortifying for me. Yeah. Like boys would like check to see if you're wearing bras. And I'm like, I don't even, like, I think I owned one, but I was like, I'm not wearing one because the bra is thicker than my boobs. Like, I'm not wearing it. So it was, and it was just such a source of shame. And I'm really tall, right? So I'm like 5'11", and my boobs are they were literally in most of the guys' faces, especially the guy I liked. Like he was like 5'2" maybe, or 5'3". So his face was like right at my boob level, and I was very totally self-conscious of it. So boobs, whatever size, they do get a lot of attention, small or big.
And how nice of them to monitor your progress, right? So it's like, hey, wow, look, those girls, they're really, busting out over there, and hey, you're not. What's going on over there? It's like, wow, dudes, so nice of you to monitor the progress here, as if I'm not paying attention to that already, right? And it's just the way the culture is, right? That society is, there's such mystique and mystery and interest and kind of that clinical energy that you were talking about, where it's so kind of sterile, and there's all these energies sort of wrapped up around them, and which is one of the reasons why I think that it's great to talk about it and great to write about it and great to look at the energy of this and see what it creates. And if it's not creating what you want, make a different choice.
We have a lot of choices. People, I really love the Access Energetic Facelift, and in the video for it, Shannon O'Hara talks about when she does facelift, sometimes people's boobies grow. And I thought, like, what a gift she is. Like, Shannon, can we meet up somewhere in the world? But the funny thing is actually the less points of view I have about things in general, and the more I'm beginning to receive my body as a gift and like truly acknowledge and get that the body that I'm creating is actually like a source of pleasure for me, source of pleasure for my lover. It's actually a gift. The more I get that, the less I have a point of view about my boobs. And sometimes I will like, wear those so-called inappropriate shirts in church and like bust out the cleavage that was really funny because I had family who have known me like my whole life. My female cousins were sitting right across from me, and they both were like, "Cousin, your boobs grew." Like, it's been like a source of the bane of all of our existences that in our family we have one cousin that got all the boobs, and she has double J breasts, and the rest of us are like A's or B's. And so the ongoing joke is that one cousin got like boob enough for all of us. Like, even if she shared 2 cup sizes with all of us, we'd all be like kind of even.
Right. And
we don't know how those genes got.
And then and what you're talking about is that energetic component of it, though, right? It's like we're looking at this and we're comparing, but the fact that you love your body, the fact that you're acknowledging your breasts, that you're thanking them, it's actually causing them to flourish in a physical way. And I actually had this conversation with my daughter, Christy, who, as you mentioned, we had done this radio show called Teens Done Different. And the other day she's like, you know what? She just went running, so she had her sport bra on. And of course, when you're running, they move with you, right? So
yes, they do.
She was looking, and I said, "Can I say this on the radio show?" And she's like, "Sure." She goes, "Well, one of them's bigger than the other one, because this one is named so-and-so." I can't remember what she named it. She goes, "After the suburban white woman that I used to see running on the treadmill in the gym. And this one is named after the sassy African-American woman that I also see dancing around the gym." And I was like, "Oh," and she just went, "Oh." We were like, "Oh my gosh," but that is exactly what it was. She had named them
hilarious
after the other, and one was actually bigger and shaped differently, actually sort of in a mimicking energetic way of each one. And I said, "Well, maybe would you like to maybe destroy it and create that energy right now, maybe change it and just ask them maybe what they want to be named instead of naming them after," because we were so aware in that moment that they were actually, mimicking the breasts of the women that they were named after. So
how freaking genius is Christy? That's so cool. That is just so freaking fun. I know that for me, there was, like, when I was about 7, I used to read these books there was a book called Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, and I can't for the life of me remember the author of it. It's like this book that like every preteen reads before puberty, right? And in it, there's like this little girls club, and they're like comparing boobs, and they're being kind of like nasty, like little girls are, like tweeny girls are, about boobs and getting bras and like being mean about it. And I remember reading that book as a kid, and I was about grade 5 or 6. It was just before puberty for me, and I remember praying to God. Like, I had created this, I was like, "Oh, please, God." So I was almost as tall as I am now, but not quite. I was, this tall at 12 or 13. So I was maybe 10 or 11. Mm-hmm. So I have 10-year-old hands, and I'm like, okay, God, if you just make my boobs this big. So I like stuck my thumb under my armpit and like elevated it to like however high my thumb into my palm was, right? Kind of like flat, if you put your thumb down under your palm, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, okay, just like that, kind of under the armpit, right? Well, don't you know my brilliant body created breasts that size till now, right? And they've just starting to get out of that. But I had made a vow and promised to God, like, God, if you just give me this, I'll be happy. Like, I am hilarious. Wow. I created really funny things with oaths and vows in my body, and I was like, God, if you just make it for blah, blah, blah. Like, man, I was that kid who prayed every night for ridiculous things. Like, I knew if I asked, I would receive. Yeah. I was just asking for very limiting things. So, yes, Judy Bloom, really that's the author of that book. Yeah, right?
Brilliant creation, yeah.
And how much do we do that? Like, we don't even know. When did we decide? Like, I'm looking at my daughter who's like, Mommy, you got big boobs. And so to her, if she's thinking, I like big boobs, and then she ends up with boobs like mine, she'll be like, what? That wasn't big. What's going on? So like our point of view.
What we could do with our points of view, with our requests, and with our names, with our name calling. So
it's hilarious.
I wonder if you want to talk more about names. I know, we're coming up on a break here, but we could talk more about names. Yeah, we are.
And I would like to talk more about that before we go to break. So, I know, too, that, men will sometimes have nicknames for their lovers' bodies, too. Like, I have a friend, and her lover refers to her boobs as the girls, as if they're, like, separate from her. And I'm like, what the hell is that? And we actually had a conversation once about this, and I was like, I think he has a relationship with your boobs separate from your vagina and separate from you as a being. Like, does that ring true for you? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, it's really weird. It's like he talks to your boobs, he talks to your vagina. They're different, and you are different. And so I wonder how many ways we compartmentalize our bodies and separate ourselves so that we're not actually, it's like you separate yourself from your boobs. Now what? Like, what? You are. It's all you.
Yeah, and it's interesting because there's the girls, right? And I think I want to say that I'm calling them my girls. So I was at least claiming and owning and acknowledging them because I did. I called them my girls, which was different because the girls. And how many other names can we come up with for them too that the lovers call them that might be something that's light for them or that they like that we don't necessarily care for. Like there's some that I just do not care for. I don't know why. They just like Hooters.
The ones that irk you. Oh yeah, like that doesn't even. I'm not a Hooters fan. To me is like. No, it's like something you walk up to. It's like something you'd put on your bike and squeeze to make a noise. It's like a horn to me. I'm like, I don't get it. It's like every time I think of Hooters, I think somebody's walking up to you and just going, rah, rah, like a weird noise comes out because there's something weird and squeaky toy-like about it.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, that just doesn't do anything, but I know a lot of guys that just love that name, and they just sort of putting that out there, the whole restaurant thing, the girl service. That's just like, I don't know.
And some guys also call them tatas, which I don't like that either because in Serbian tata means father. So I'm not like, that doesn't turn me on either. So I'm not about the tatas.
Me either.
That's my dad? That's weird.
I couldn't say grandpa, so we ended up saying tata. We used to call grandpa that. So that's grandpa.
Right. So, if you're not calling your dad or grandpa tata, maybe that works for you. But it really, twists my brain around. Like, oh my God, and then somebody tickles them and they're my tatas and I'm getting turned on and it's like that's messed in my head. So everything that brings up in my world, I'm going to destroy and uncreate all that.
Pocket spot, right off the bed, pocket spot, only shorts with beyond. I'll contribute towards that. I don't want grandpa. I don't bring him in the bedroom right now. No, thank you.
No, yes, right. I'm not sexy about that.
How many other names? Let's see, how many other names can we come up with here? Headlights.
Headlights, right. Yeah, there's those, and then there was also that thing for, I don't know what show it came from, but there was a movie, and they were like, tune in Tokyo, tune in Tokyo. I hate that. That's
right.
Just, like, I don't even know how that's supposed to be funny, but sometimes I feel compelled to, like, turn it around and go, I'll just grab your penis and, like, do the same thing. Like, do you like it? Like, I'm curious.
Yeah, like rabbit ears. Let me adjust your penis so I can see where I can get that, right? And what I love about it, what I'm laughing about is your energy towards it. It's like, yeah, that's not working for me. Yes.
No, it's not.
To say that, right? To talk about it. What a gift this is, right? To kind of get this all up and to really explore it. You know, knockers, gazongas.
Knockers, yeah. What? Yeah, all of those. Yeah, knockers. Like, what are they? Okay, well, truthfully, my grandmother, my Serbian grandmother, not my Canadian grandmother, my Serbian grandmother had breasts, and she had 10 children, and she nursed every single one of them that lived. So 6 lived past the age of 1. And she nursed all of them for the first little while of their lives. And my grandmother, when you would hug her, she was about 5'5", but when you would hug her, you could feel her breasts down at your hips. Like her breasts were, she had old grandma, like old European grandma boobies, and she would tie them, she would actually strap them down. Like I remember she was like getting sick at one point, and she needed my help getting like her dress off or something, which is a very vulnerable thing for her, because the only person who had seen her naked in her life was her husband and doctors during an operation. That was it. So I was like helping her, and it was like, whoa, my grandma's like wearing a bandage. Like she would bandage her boobs up. So she didn't wear a bra. She just did this bandage thing to actually like tie them down, like hold them down, which essentially squashed them down to like her hips, right? So there was definitely like you didn't want to show off your sexualness for my grandma, who was like a horny bugger. Like she was not supposed to be, but I mean, that's where I get it, right? It's genetic. No, it's actually just who I am. But yeah, they would strap them and wrap them like, you know what, before bras were around, and my mom considers bras like torture chambers for her boobs, so she lets them hang free, like all the time, and if she could just not wear shirts, she would do that too all the time, which is actually legal in Ontario and Canada. Like you can be, if men can go topless, so can women, but that law got passed, and then for a while, people were going crazy with it, and now everybody's kind of forgot that 20 years ago a law was passed that you could go topless. So we don't see it as much anymore. But when that law first came out, there was boobies everywhere. Like you just turn and there was like boobs everywhere. So it was very. That's
so curious. What did that create there? What kind of energy? How was it received?
There was a lot of backlash. Yeah, there was a lot of people that were like really upset. Like a lot of, and I think the law is still like there that you could do it. Just people aren't choosing to. Yeah, auto collisions. The about a few days right after that law got passed, I went to a Buffy St. Marie concert, and the ladies love Buffy, and especially the ladies who love Buffy. So it was me and my mom in a mosh pit of lesbians with boobs like everywhere, and like the boobs were like hitting me, and it was quite an experience. It was memorable. It was one concert that I was like, wow, Mom. I think it was like 18 or 19. I was like, something I'm never going to forget. Like it's not something you would ever forget. The boobs are everywhere, and they're up on stage, and even Buffy, she couldn't sing. She was like, whoa. Like she got stumped. She was like in a beyond with this topless crowd of women. No, Keisha's like, that's really cool. Where was I, damn it?
Yeah, that really is kind of cool, you know?
Yeah.
It really just, it brings it right, as Keisha was also saying, it just brings it up and gets it off our chest, so to speak. But
Right.
And, how much of that is just what is required to actually not make it a thing, not make it significant, and not make it so meaningful that it's bad or wrong, or that the judgment all comes at it and it freaks people out. And sometimes that's what's required, is just to say the word boobies like a million times until
the
charge just dissipates. People aren't going, oh, she just said boobs on the radio. Oh my God, she just said it again. Boobs. She just said, oh my God, she just said it again. And just keep saying it until it's not got
booby
that.
therapy, totally.
Booby therapy.
Just like get some boobies and like you just put your face in them and like just like go like, yeah, boobies. Like maybe that'd help too. Like boobies in your face, just booby, like just saying it a lot. And so here's the funny story. So you got all these boobies. We're all allowed to be topless in Ontario, but the law about breastfeeding doesn't actually get passed until about 15 years later, where you can actually breastfeed in public. But you could go topless. Because, yeah.
And you could bounce them around against each other in a concert.
What? Yeah, you could slap them in a guy's or a woman's face, no sweat, but you could not nurse at the same time. It was so weird.
Which is actually, from a nature standpoint, one of the most natural, organic things that happens, right?
Yeah. So it's actually a legal thing that you are allowed to nurse anywhere. I can't remember. There's actually a law that passed that you're allowed, but there will be restaurants that will refuse you. They still are disgusted by it, which I think is hilarious. Like, they want you to go into the bathroom and feed your kid because really, do you eat your food sitting on a toilet? Like, I don't know why a baby is supposed to eat their food sitting on a toilet, but it's so weird.
It is. Exactly. And this is all bringing up all these just weird, twisted points of view about boobs. Oh, my goodness.
I know. Yeah, there are so many out there.
And, I got to admit, I had them. I bought a lot of the lies. I grew up where it was just like kind of just very uncomfortable to talk about, except in the clinical sense. Right. In terms of like what you learned in health class, right? Yes. In 5th or 6th grade, and what the school nurse took all the girls and sat you all down to talk about, and everybody knew that was happening. She comes in the door of the classroom and says, "All right, I'll have these girls now," and everybody's looking around like, "Oh."
Did I get to ask the question about what's going on with my vagina, but I don't want to ask it? Yeah. I remember those classes.
I even talk about the boobs, too, and oh, my goodness, and the boys are sweating, and the other girls are turning beet red, It's like, oh, I'm not part of this club, but I am part of this club, and oh, my God, what am I going to do? And all that kind of stuff, So, wow, what else is possible, though, now that we have laws supporting us, and now that we have people like us willing to talk about this and change this and really nurture that part of our bodies, because there's so much energy that, again, is the focus of that is kind of projected onto it that we buy, and we create all kinds of interesting things with it, like breast cancer, which I did, very interesting how that all happens.
It's a totally interesting creation, and there's so many women out there that their bodies are creating cancer, and that's definitely something I'd like to get more into after our break. And just for those of you who are listening right now, and your body has cancer in it, or you've created cancer in your body, I get that when I say that, it might really piss the shit out of you. You might want to just slap me upside down. I didn't create it. And that's totally cool. That's your point of view. And I really encourage you to be with us in the next segment after the break to listen to what Julie has to say about what she's aware of about her body, what was going on with her body, what awarenesses she came to, and what actually changed for her. Because, there are things that are possible that you can create, and that you can also uncreate with your bodies. Bodies are magic. So, really love to have you guys stick around and listen to that part of the conversation, even if I just pissed you off with what I said with creating cancer, because I get that could piss a few people off. Mm-hmm. So how about if we head to our break now, and then we'll come back and have that very controversial creation of cancer conversation when we come back from these commercial breaks. How many C's can I get in a row there?
Nicely done.
Boobies.
Nicely done.
There.
Boobies.
Boobies.
Many of us have created a lot of limitations around sex and what we are willing to choose. What else is possible beyond what we have already seen, heard, or thought of? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual revolution, taking the taboo out of all aspects of sex, sexuality, and copulation by tuning in to the Pleasure Zone radio show with body whisperer Milica, Jelenic. You'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for the Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
What would you say if I told you that you could change your life in only 1 hour and all while lying down relaxing? Thousands of people all over the world have. What am I talking about? It's called Access Consciousness, the bars. The bars is an energetic body process that contains 32 different points on your head that when run assist you in releasing decisions about any area of your life that you have made solid and as a result cannot change. The bars is the first class in Access Consciousness, a dynamic set of tools and information designed to transform any area of your life. When you have a bars session, the worst that can happen is you feel like you had a fantastic massage. The best thing that can happen is your whole life could change. Go to accessconsciousness.com today to find a facilitator to schedule a private session or to find a bars class in your area. Are you willing to give yourself an hour to change your life?
This is the Pleasure Zone with body whisperer Milica, Jelenic. To participate in the program today, please call in the U.S. Call 815-880-8255. That's TALK. Or Canada 613-800-8736. Or you can Skype us at Inspired Choices Network. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email at milicajelenic.com. Now back to the program.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Pleasure Zone. I'm your host, Milica Jelenic, and tonight's conversation is My Boobies Are My BFF, and I'm here speaking with my guest, Julie Perkins, and tonight we're calling her Julie O. And she has, I'm just naming the Perkins so that you guys can find her on her website at that's right, that's how the website starts, julieoperkins.com. So you can find her there. You can find what she's up to in the world. The link to your book is on your site, is it, Julie? Or can they find that on Amazon?
They can find it on Amazon, and it's called Breast Easy. The editor is Erica Glessing, and there are she is one of the authors, as well as 13 others of us fabulous authors talking about our experiences with our breasts and what we know and our awarenesses about breasts. So that's where we are. Just released and now a #1 bestseller already, available in Kindle as well.
Awesome. How does it get any better than that? I don't think there are a lot of books dedicated to conscious conversations with boobies, so it's a pretty unique book in itself. There are books out there that talk about, spirituality and why you created this, and they kind of tell you what you did. I get this is a totally different conversation, and I'm really looking forward to my copy arriving. Yay!
Yay! It's on its way.
Yeah, I'm very excited. And so before we went to break, we kind of touched on a few very controversial topics about the creation of cancer and how we do, what we're aware of with creating cancer in our body and what you're aware of, Julie, with that. So I'd like to just kind of let you kind of tell a little bit about what was going on in your life and your body and what tools you used or what you chose to as you call it, sur-thrive.
Sur-thrive, right. Well, it was a really interesting start to my journey with my breasts, my boobs, and cancer. So prior to getting the diagnosis, I had been working in corporate America, kind of a type A, obsessive, compulsive, hard driving worker. Lot of stress And when we chose to have a family and I chose to start having kids, one of the things that I chose to do was to keep working but also have the kids and manage all of that. And then as the kids grew up, of course, they were having things like all kinds of activities. So here I was, I chose to leave corporate America but start my own consulting business, training and consulting business. And so I was running this business, managing the household, managing all of the kids' activities, all their sports, and we were into scouts and all of those kinds of things. And so being the control freak of magnitude, all of that stress was kind of really just balling up into a nice big tight wad and into a breast cancer tumor. And so the interesting thing though is that people who know me, and although most of them at the time were my medical practitioners like doctors or chiropractors or like massage therapists, or acupuncturists, things like that, they would say, "Oh, you're so in touch with your body." Yet at that time I had just been driving, and creating all of that stress and having it kind of all come together in that space, that even the medical community didn't recognize it at first. I literally had just had a clear mammogram 2 months before when I was compelled to do a breast self-exam in the shower, like they have the little, chart that you do that, and I was like, what? And it's like, do this. And I was like, oh yeah, I had maybe done a couple in my whole life, and at this time, I'm in my 30s. And so I was like, well, okay, I'm going to do this. And I found the lump, and I was like, something's not right here. So, at the same time that I'm ignoring my body, I'm also following my awareness, and it, led down the path of where it actually was breast cancer, and I fell right into the medical trap of all the diagnosis and believing that this was happening to me at first. And yet there was still that awareness that was kind of pinging in, is that like, well, wait a minute. You knew this. You knew you were getting all stressed out, and you knew that you were creating this. And so what are you going to do to uncreate it? And so then that was really, the genesis of the journey. And it really required me to elicit the wisdom and the support of my girls, my best friends, to really, for us to come together and uncreate this just as how it had created. Because honestly, your body, including your breath, just responds to what you're asking for it. And so at that time, I was like, I'm stressed out and I'm tired and I'm sick and tired. I'm sick and tired of this not working right now. Or I'm sick and tired of being tired, and I'm sick and tired. And so sick and tired, how many times can you say that before your body says, oh, wait, sick and tired? Order up. Here we go. Let me serve you that on a platter, right? Sick and tired.
What kind of sick you looking for, Yeah,
what kind of sick you looking for? I can, deliver that. What do you want? So that is really, really the genesis of the journey, and how we got through it was by coming together and uncreating that. So I see in the chat room, my friend Jenny Lynn is here too, another amazing author of the book. And
awesome.
So it's really just great to have all kinds of people talking about their breasts and what they're creating and uncreating with it. So so perfect. So Milica, what more do you want to know about my journey?
I want to know all about your boobies, Julie. But actually, what I'm wondering about was, so you were saying that you kind of went the medical route, and then you realized that you had actually contributed to creating this, like you had this awareness. So, what was it that you did? Like, was it a combination of things? Like, what kind of things was your body asking for that had it change? That had it change everything for you, so that your body no longer has a tumor in it? Yeah.
So the first thing that it was my body was really demanding was that I really listen to it. So that first shout in the shower, do the breast self-exam, the shouting continued until I complied. So it was that whole piece of listening to it in the shower, finding it, calling a doctor that I trusted who happened to be the OBGYN that had delivered our daughter, Christy, at the time. And being that he was in an HMO, having the nurse who answered the phone say, "Oh, yes, well, for this kind of appointment, because I understand that you're kind of nervous about this, but this is considered kind of a regular appointment, and those aren't available for another month. But, oh, wait, somebody just slipped me a note that this afternoon's staff meeting at 2 p.m. is canceled. Would you like to come in then?"
Wow.
To which I say, yes, I would. So being willing to not be afraid, being willing to, well, I smell smoke. There might be a fire somewhere around here close.
Yeah.
But being willing to walk straight into that and to follow that prompting, that motivation, that impetus by my body was really what started the whole process. That happened again with the surgeon, because after a month, my OBGYN, we watched it, and it changed, and it looked like it was coming up towards the top and getting bruised, like it was trying to get out, literally.
Yeah.
That spot there. My OBGYN says, I don't like the way that looks. And I said, I don't either. He says, let's call the surgeon. Same thing. Oh, we don't have anything for 6 months, but oh, wait, here's a cancellation that just showed up in the system for tomorrow morning. Would you like to come in then? Yes, I would.
Wow.
It's two steps, walking straight into the fire, keep going, and just knowing that no matter what it was, we were going to get through it. Me and my girls, my body, all of us. And I talk like that's separate, but it's really not. It's just this kind of energy of doing this. And again, waiting for the results of the biopsy because it was over Labor Day weekend and they weren't going to get the results, and so I had to wait an extra day until Tuesday, and then the doctor calls and he says, "Oh, you don't have cancer, but we're not really sure what it is, so we want to look again." I say, okay, sigh of relief, and then the phone rings 5 minutes later, and he says, "Oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry. There was another Julie here. I was reading the wrong chart. You have breast cancer." And going,
wow,
like the cat on the ceiling when they get freaked out. I was like, whoa,
holy cow,
what? And then really having to titrate between all of that, which is all the medical stuff and all the points of view and all the what that means when you get a diagnosis of breast cancer, and versus what I know, what my body knows, what my girls know. So we did a combination. We had the lumpectomy. We had a little bit of chemo until my body and I just said, oh, this is bullshit. I was really reluctant to have chemo because I kept, getting, like, I don't want you to come back to me in 20 years and say, oh, I'm sorry, you have the chemo we gave you 20 years ago gave you cancer. What? I was getting furious at just the thought of that.
Pretty much what Johns Hopkins University in the U.S. is now saying about chemo. So, yeah.
Yes.
Like, they're actually saying that all over the place.
For sure.
Yeah.
I totally knew that, I knew that somewhere in my universe. Yeah, I tried a little bit of it because I did kind of fall prey to all the
fear.
Points of view stuff, projecting on none of which was mine. I was having weird-ass nightmares about relatives in the church crying at my coffin saying, if she had only orphaned her children, not like they're orphans, right? Because I have a dad, my husband's still here, but wow, what weird points of view, right? So, I kind of fell prey to that and to all the science and made the science God, and I did a little bit of chemo until my white blood cell count kept depleting, which chemo does, and they won't give you more chemo until the white cells come back, right? And I remember distinctly going to a naturopath, and I had an acupuncturist. I had all these, alternative modalities, doing lots of yoga or, meditation, all kinds of things. And I remember going to the naturopath to boost it one more time and finding out that it was high enough. And the doctor's office called and said, you can go back now for your 3rd out of 4th round of chemo because you're okay now to do this. And I just looked at the doctor and said, I'm sorry, I'm not doing this. I'm just not doing this anymore. And I remember, talking to my family members who were very concerned about it, and I said, this is an announcement, not a discussion. We're not doing this. We've done, actually, I had done 3. We've done 3. I'm not doing the 4th. That's 75%. That's passing in my book. We're out of here, and we're going on to radiation, because that always made more sense to me. There was something about the radiation that made sense to me because it was felt very localized at that time. Right. So that's kind of, where I got to with it all, was just a combination of, running between the different realms of fear and science and my knowing, and just choosing and going forward. And in the end, when I tell people who actually don't know that I had breast cancer, they're like, oh my God, you did? I didn't know that about you. I'm like, yeah, because I don't put the little pink ribbon on my car, and I wear it like a badge of honor
your whole life. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, I had breast cancer like you had the flu. You got over the flu, and I got over it. End of story.
Yeah, which is like, some people make that their whole life, their whole identity. Cancer survivor, they make it their identity. They become part of the community of cancer people. Like, somehow you didn't have cancer, so you don't understand. But everybody I know knows at least one person who's had cancer, or they've had it themselves. So most people have enough, have had experience with it somewhere. And what I love is that you following your knowing doesn't always mean you're going to go holistic. Following your knowing doesn't mean that you're going to not see a doctor. Following your knowing and listening to your body, sometimes your body wants to see the doctor. Maybe the doctor's hot and your body's like, yeah, show him your boobs, because that's a turn on. Like, you don't actually know what the heck your body is choosing it for. So you're like, hey, cool, that's all I wanted to do was show my boobs to the hot doctor. Oh, cool, now I'm healed. But you never know, right? So,
yeah, and you don't get over not wanting to show your boobs when you have breast cancer. Trust me, because everybody's like, all right, let me see them, and they're all doing something different with it. You get over all those points of view about not showing your boobs.
Yeah, they want to see the scars, and I mean, I know somebody that had breast cancer as well, and I was very curious about the scars. Like, I just wondered, like, can I see it? Like, what does it look like? And I was like, hey, it's kind of interesting. My grandmother had well, they didn't know if she had breast cancer because it was like the 1950s or something. I don't know what. She already had very small breasts to begin with, but essentially they just. She told me that she just kind of like had lumps removed or something. I don't know, and she had heart surgery. So my grandma was that was my Canadian grandma, not with the boobs down to her hips, the other one. And she was kind of like Frankensteinish monster. Like, she had so many scars on her that was like, wow. So as a kid looking at her body, I was like, wow. I was kind of like shocked because I hadn't seen so many scars. And there was something in my knowing that was like, I'm going to choose anything but that. Like, I don't want that. Yeah.
Well, so, it's interesting that you talk about that, because actually back when in college, I had actually a breast reduction that I chose because I was having so much pain in my upper neck and shoulders, and I was a lifeguard too, so there was a lot of stuff around judgment and all that. And it wasn't until 20 years later in my breast cancer diagnosis and the kind of breast cancer that I had that they said it's cancer in those kinds of fatty cells of which they had removed pounds of 20 years earlier.
Wow.
So what did I know then? And even though I was, judged for having done that, and it was like a real hush-hush thing, and I did have those scars that kind of felt like Franken-booby, to me, and, it was kind of like having relationships and saying, like, yeah, I know we're going to have sex now, but I got to tell you something first before I disrobe and show you my breasts. They might look a little different than you think, but they did it in such a way that they kept all the plumbing so that I actually could breastfeed, and I did have some judgments about that because I didn't feel like I had enough milk, but I still was able to breastfeed. But yeah, I had called them Frankenbooby, and put that on my girls. Yeah, exactly, Frankenbooby. And yeah,
I'm like, yeah.
What a great name for a cartoon character, Frankenbooby, right?
Yeah, totally. That's my thoughts. I was just watching some Frankenstein cartoon with my daughter before we got on this, so that's what I'm thinking of. It's just funny.
Do we know, right? And what did I know? And as a 21-year-old, following that energy, what did I know then that would help me later when I had the tools 20 years later to actually trust my knowing to navigate that if I hadn't done that, it might have worked out completely differently. I didn't have have that trust and that knowing with my body that I had developed over the 20 years. I think it really just allowed me to go through it in a different way and really realize that, I had created this. I was stressed out, and I was dying to get out of that stressed out life. So I literally created a life-threatening disease called breast cancer.
It's because you're a genius,
and then I undid
Julie.
It.
And then you changed it. I'd like to just mention something in Ontario. When you go to get your PAP, which we now can have like every 3 years. It used to be yearly. I think it's once every 3 years. Is what's covered by our OHIP. So when I went the last time, I was so used to, and I hadn't been to have one in like 9 years since my daughter was born. And I was like, okay, my body was like, yeah, let's go. Let's just go. I'm like, okay, cool. And what I found out during the examination is they don't do the breast examination anymore. They don't do the breast tissue examination. They actually, the nurse practitioner told me that they didn't find that it was actually it wasn't actually bringing enough awareness about the cancer, that they weren't doing early detection. And I was like, are you freaking kidding me? And here you are saying this is what it is.
See, right? Me flipping the bird. That is exactly how I found my lump. The mammogram was clear. I found my lump through a self-exam. So trust your knowing.
Unbelievable. So trust your knowing, trust your hands and your body.
Anyway.
Just do it.
That's what I'm saying.
Because I requested it, and she's like, well, I'm really not supposed to. I'm like, I'm asking you to because I don't have a chart anymore, and I just want to know how to do it. Plus, I like getting felt up. But can you do this for me? And she's like, yeah, I can, but it's really not. I'm like, oh, my God, it's going to take you 2 minutes. I just need a reminder of how to do it because I haven't done it in a long time.
Nice. Good.
And, so she did reluctantly, but I was like, seriously?
Yep.
We have an onslaught of cancer in the area that we're in from whatever. You can say whatever you want that it's from. People dying to get out of whatever. And yet we are choosing to not teach people this simple tool. And there was a really simple thing that my mom and I had found at a health fair. And I think it was like sand in a bag or something. It was so simple.
Yeah.
And it actually helped detect like tumors that were like the size of a pea. Like really accurate. And we're not using this. Why? We're using mammograms and squishing boobies and is even like creating any awareness. Like, what are we doing to bodies? Why are we so retarded?
Exactly. And we all have healing capacities, whether we choose to acknowledge them or not. And our very touch, whether it's someone else's by our request, like you just said, or by our own touch, that is exactly how I found my tumor. I listened to my body and I felt around for it, even though I wasn't sure exactly what I was doing. And I knew it was there. I knew. Yeah. I knew. I didn't want to know, but I knew.
Yeah, when you know, you know. And even if it's not fun, just know that you know.
Not fun. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So what can get created now that if we were all to be willing to acknowledge and nurture and communicate and foster that relationship with our breasts? What could get created from that? And that's really, I'm encouraging everybody to get a copy of the Breast Easy book. It's on Amazon and also paperback and Kindle. And just check out all the fabulous stories by all the authors there.
And we also want to thank Jenny Lynn for being in the chat room, the other co-author of the book. Thanks for being present with us tonight. And for all of you listening, if you have questions and would like facilitation, contact Julie. She's got some awareness here about bodies and stuff. So thank you so much and have a great week.
Thank you.
Thank you for choosing to listen to The Pleasure Zone. Milica Jelenic will return next Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Until then, have the best week of your life by choosing to be turned on and tuned in to your body.